Run it, baby. Ricky Cheese, baby!
Hey guys, it's your boy Ricky Cheese with another great episode of Grinding for Greatness. On today's show, former MMA referee and Florida high school wrestling official John Hosegood joins me as we discuss his past experience with working a UFC card, officiating high school wrestling, and his ways of honing his craft. And finally, we'll talk about John's new grandbaby and how he just loves being a papa. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And remember, keep grinding for greatness. So what's been going on, bro? Been working a lot?
Yeah, I'm on the way out though.
Are you?
I'm gonna be retiring on the 25th of
God bless
July.
you.
So,
And how many years did you put in there?
26.
26 years. What exactly do you do?
I work in the phosphate industry. I actually work in a chemical plant. My department, we make sulfuric acid.
Okay.
So at this stage of my career, I just sit in a chair and run the machine. I got people to do all the real work outside.
Good.
And but it's more of a in case of emergency break glass type of job.
Yeah.
I'm just there in case you need me. If everything's going well, I don't have a whole lot to do.
Good. That's the kind of job I like.
Yeah, if I'm busy, things are going poorly.
I hear you. You know, I heard that that phosphates. So I always thought that the state of Florida, like our biggest thing was citrus. I always thought that, but I heard it's phosphates. Is that true?
Yeah. Especially Central
that.
Florida area, it's huge. Like my location alone, we employ about 700 people, and then we got multiple locations because we got the chemical side, which is what I'm on, and we got the mine side, which is the part that actually digs the phosphate from the ground.
Yeah.
So our end product is it's like a huge co-op, right? So the only raw materials that we use is the phosphate rock. We use we buy molten sulfur, and we buy anhydrous ammonia.
Wow.
So everything else within that process to the end product, which is like industrial grade fertilizer and animal feed ingredients.
Okay.
So all geared towards farmers. I mean, the fertilizer we make, if you threw it on your grass, it'd kill it. You know what I mean? It's
pretty strong shit.
Stuff.
Yeah. So when's the actual when's your last day?
5th of July.
Wow. The 5th of July. Why don't you just do it the 3rd of July so you can have a real nice weekend?
Well, I'm doing it the 25th of July.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm transitioning into something new. So my wife and I were going to open up a fit body boot camp franchise.
It's right up your alley, man.
And yeah, it's kind of that point in my life where I'm going to do something I want to do now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, man. Well, ever since I've known you, you've been into that stuff. And I was thinking before I walked in to get on the show, I was like, man, what shirt am I going to wear? I'm always wearing a TFWR shirt. My wife goes, people are going to think you own one shirt. So I go, you know what? I got John on. Let me wear a Lake Gibson shirt.
Gibson shirt.
Yeah. So I had to wear it for you, brother. Walker sent me this. Actually, Walker didn't send me this. I'm pissed at Walker. He kept telling me, it's on my desk. I'm going to send it. He never sent it. I had one of the parents on the team sent it for me. So
yeah, he is. I tell you, man, I've known Danny for years, and for as great of a program he runs, it's amazing that the program runs the way it is, because he is one of the most disorganized individuals I have ever met in my life. Like it was when Austin was there, it was one of the things that would drive us crazy, because we're like really planned out people.
Yep.
And it'd be 2 days before you were leaving for a tournament, and it'd be like, hey, like, where are we staying? How are we getting there? What flight are the kids taking? Because we're coming. And it's like, get with Brent. You wouldn't even know, So,
that's so funny.
That used to make us nuts. But
yeah, they got a kid over there that just came over a couple of years ago. I forgot what school he came over from. His name's Noah Gregory, and his dad is a really nice guy. His company actually sponsors the website, the Gregory Group, real estate agent. And
Okay.
he sent me the shirt. He goes, I got you. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. If
he
you're
sent me
waiting on
that.
Walker, yeah. And you can't call him on the phone either. He don't answer the phone.
I won't even try that.
Yeah.
It's hard
You
enough
can
getting him
text
to,
him.
it's hard enough
You
getting
can
him to respond to those damn things.
Yeah, well, and that's going to be when he gets around to it. But yeah, you can.
Does
Yeah,
he
that
teach
was
at the
like
school or he just coaches?
no, no. He works for City of Lakeland Parks and
Okay.
Recreation. He's a supervisor with them.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
they work his schedule. He's been there long enough, and they do pretty good for him. Like his days off are like Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that helps him with
of course.
tournaments,
Absolutely.
stuff like that. So, but yeah, he works at Lake Bonnie Park, and he's a supervisor over there. Like they have baseball fields, running trails,
Gotcha.
soccer fields, all that. So he does all. He's in charge of like all the grounds maintenance,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. So
Make sure the park looks good.
yeah, and I mean it always does. That's one thing I'll say about Lakeland. Like all their parks, they take care of them pretty good.
Yep. Yep. So for the people listening that don't know, obviously your son wrestled at Lake Gibson. What year did he graduate? 2017, same year as
Yep.
Bryce? Okay.
Yep. 17.
And how old was Austin when he started?
Sixth grade, however old that is.
Okay,
He
so
started
that's how
his-
long I've known you. I've known you
Yeah.
since those little bastards were in sixth grade. Damn, man, we're
Yeah.
getting old. We're getting old. Do you I was talking to Bryce the other day and I asked him, I go, do you miss the wrestling? He's like, not even that fucking much. I'm like, really? Yeah. He goes, nope, not. He goes, listen, man, I was out there since I was 5 or 6 years old. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and that's it. It was a great part of my life, but I'm done. I'm like, all right, whatever. Do you miss seeing your son compete? Like I miss seeing him compete,
Oh yeah,
man.
yeah,
I miss
absolutely.
that. I miss it so much, man.
But
The whole thing.
I mean, it's a lot. And, that's one of the things about officiating. Like it brings back a lot of memories,
I bet.
of the kids when they were little and stuff like. And it's like it's one of the things like I tell them like I love officiating middle school. Like some of the guys don't because it doesn't pay much, and some of the guys don't. But I love it. Like it's just such nostalgia attached to it for me.
Yeah.
And that's when I started wrestling was middle school. You call it junior high back then,
Right.
and
Junior
it
high.
was like, so. But I think it's something that Austin is going to carry with him forever, because like even now, he's in the Army, he's stationed up at Fort Stewart, and he volunteer coaches with a youth group up there, you know. Luca, our grandson, is now going. He's 2, and he's already, he goes with dad to the wrestling practice, and they
I
get out
love it.
there and they'll be doing sprawl drills and stuff, and Luca's doing it and all excited,
It's the best.
And now he just had back in March, he just had their second boy.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah. So, but
Unreal.
yeah, even when he was in college, he was volunteer coaching at one of the high schools, and I think it's going to be part of his life pretty much for good. And
Yeah.
his wife seems okay with it. So
Good. That's important. That's very important, as you know. So, he is actually very, very lucky because he got to wrestle at the Division I level. Austin did. And I just had one of his coaches on a couple of weeks ago. I had Pritz come on, and
okay.
I fucking love that guy. I've known Pritz since I'm 12 years old. So he was like, I don't know, 9 or 10, but he was a lunatic back then. He's a lunatic now. But yeah, so he got to wrestle at the D1 level. Did you ever talk to him about like how different that was for him as opposed to high school wrestling at Lake Gibson?
Yeah, well, he was like, so he walked on.
Right. Most of them do.
Yeah, he walked on, and I mean, I think from the day he got there, like he knew what time it was.
Of course.
You know what I mean? The guys that were in the room, it was like he was literally just there because he loved it.
Right.
He got to wrestle a few tournaments unattached and stuff like that. He enjoyed that, but like I was telling this story to somebody else the other day. He called me one time, in practice, and what was the guy's name? God, it just fell right out of my brain. I can't remember. It'll come to me. It'll come to me in a second. But he's like, yeah. He's like, man, I can't believe I can't remember that guy's name. I'm mad at myself now. But anyway, some stud who, wrestling world class level, this, that, and the other thing. But Jordan Oliver.
Oh yeah.
He says,
I'm very close with Jordan.
yeah. So he calls me one day on the phone, and I'm in the truck. I don't remember where I was going. And he goes, well, he said, I just got to go live with Jordan Oliver for 20 minutes. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, how'd that go? He's like, is mom there? Because I had him on speaker. I said, no, your mom's not here. He's like, he pretty much raped me for 20 minutes.
Yeah, no shit.
And I was like, even then, it was like, it was just a cool experience,
Absolutely,
and,
man.
You get little inside stories into some of the other cats on the team and stuff like that. But he enjoyed it. Was just doing it kind of for love of the sport. And then he got involved. He was on an ROTC scholarship, so that took a lot of his time. And then he got involved with campus ministry.
Oh, nice.
That was taking a lot of his time. And he just kind of got to the point, by his junior year, where it was like there just wasn't enough time in the day, because the further he progressed in the ROTC program, the more expectations they have of them and their time.
Yeah.
He's very devout, so campus ministry was something that was very important to him. And he just had to make the decision. And it's like, I just don't have time,
right.
And I'm only doing wrestling literally because I enjoy it.
Right.
And beyond that, like, the Army's paying for my school, the campus ministry's giving me a place to stay.
You gotta prioritize.
And his relationship with God and all that, he felt like it was something he was called to do. And he was like, something's got to go, and it's just wrestling's going to have to be it.
Yeah.
Not that he wouldn't poke his head in the room every once in a while, and they'd let him come in there and roll around. You know how Pritz is, but
he
just couldn't devote the time to it anymore. And, had to make a decision, and they were gracious. I don't think he was under any illusions he was going to break the lineup.
Right. It's so hard to crack a D1 lineup. I don't care if you're a 4-time state champ. I know numerous 4-time state champs that didn't crack D1 lineups.
Well, it did a lot of good for him. So I don't know if you remember, like, his senior year, we had, in our region, we had like 7 of the top 10 kids in his weight class in the state, all in our region.
I do remember that.
And so it was like, when you get lined up like that, it's like somebody's not going to go.
Yeah.
And
it sucks.
And he didn't make it his senior year. It was pretty devastating for him and a lot of people, So he had to, sit in the stands the senior year at States. And it was a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Like the kid that finished 4th that year on the podium at States, like, Austin had tech falled earlier that year.
That hurts.
Every time they had ever wrestled, he had beat him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that kid was in a weaker region.
Just simply because he was in a different region is a tough pill to swallow, but it was also a great life lesson. Sometimes you can do everything right. Sometimes you can put in all the work and things just don't go your way. But I think when he went out there, he was feeling some kind of way about himself, and he got in there with some other kids that had walked on and started wrestling around. Had a 2-time state champ from Iowa, and got in there wrestling with that kid and was rolling him up.
Nice.
And had some other kids that were respectable from their states that had walked on too. And it's like, and Pritz, God bless him, that's what he told me. He's like, when you get here, he's like, it doesn't matter what you did in your home state anymore. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, nobody knows, nobody cares.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're as good as any of these guys. Don't worry about what, So it made him realize, like, that it wasn't all for nothing. Like he had gained a certain level of, of skill, whether the accolades supported it or not.
Exactly.
And it kind of falls back into something that I've kind of always said, it's like, nobody gives a shit how good you used to be.
It's the truth.
It's what can you do right now?
Right. Right.
That's really all that matters in life in general.
Exactly. Listen, nobody remembers the guys that won the state tournament last year. I mean, just a year ago. If you, I do the friggin' rankings, and if you ask me who was the state champ 106 through 285, I'm going to struggle because, listen, it doesn't matter. Nobody gives a shit. Yeah, great job, and you get a pat on the back then, but it's a new day, man. It's what are you going to do today? It's funny. I had Johnny DeJulius on the show a few weeks, about 2 or 3 weeks, about 3 weeks back. Johnny DeJulius used to wrestle 133 for Ohio State University. He was their starter. He was also on the team that won a national title in 2015. And he said to me on the show, he was a 4-time Big Ten placer, which is ridiculous. He's a 4-time NCAA qualifier. And he never placed at the tournament. He never made the podium at the NCAAs. He had beaten Hodge Trophy winners. He had beaten NCAA champions. He had beaten multiple time placers. He just, for whatever reason it was, he didn't put it together that day. So because you don't make it to the state tournament, or you don't place here, or you don't place there, I don't think that defines you. I think, what you do defines you, the work, the effort you put in. And listen, I wasn't at Lake Gibson, but I know enough to know, and I've spoke to enough people to know that Austin was a hard fucking worker, man. He was no slacker, bro. He busted his ass, man. And I love him, man. He's a good kid.
And you've known him since he was little,
Yes.
And it's like, Austin was like the thing, and I told him this, I told him this, in the aftermath of his senior year. I was like, look, I said, and I say this with love, like, Austin was not a natural athlete.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Austin had to bust his ass.
Right.
He was a late bloomer physically.
Mm-hmm.
Never really started hitting puberty till about his 11th grade year. But what Austin was, is he was a student of wrestling. We would see him even in middle school, sitting on a computer, watching YouTube, watching drills, watching matches, and he just, even Walker said at one point, he's probably the most technical wrestler I've ever had.
Yeah.
But he had to be to make up for what he didn't have physically.
Right.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
The mere fact, like, it wasn't like, he wasn't like a Cedarian Perry. And I don't mean this in any slight to Cedarian whatsoever. Cedarian is an amazing wrestler. But, he never started wrestling full-time until 10th grade.
Yeah.
But what Cedarian is he's a natural athlete.
Yeah.
He's very quick. Shannon Hanna's another great example.
Yep.
And both of them, good kids, super good athletes, blah, blah. But the physical advantages that they had, along with being able to pick up and get the mentoring and learn the things they learned, gave them an advantage.
Of course.
And I told Austin that at the time. I was like, you worked for every freaking win you ever got.
Yeah.
And I said, because you didn't have the physical advantages. In some ways, it probably worked to his favor, because especially early on in high school, he didn't look like much, and I think that kids took him lightly. So it kind of, by the time they figured out they were in a match, it was a little too late. So that might have helped him pull out some points victories there, where he might not have otherwise, if they'd have took him a little more seriously. But so to me, it's, like, he wrestled 126 his senior year.
Yeah.
And, he walks around about 185 pounds right now. Of course, he's,
Wow.
25 years old.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too. It's like, he decided, they came to him at the end of his junior year, the administration did. He actually could have graduated high school at the end of his junior year. He had enough credits. And he could have gone on, and he decided that he wanted to stay just to wrestle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he loves it, man.
He
loves it. A guy like Austin is probably going to be a great fucking coach, man. A great coach.
I know he loves the kids. I know that. You
Yeah.
know, he's been really. He was helping with a high school out in Arizona. He said that was a little problematic sometimes because the kids are just hammerheads at that age.
Yeah.
But the little ones that he's helping with, like the youth kids, he's really
Yep.
enjoying that. So
He'll be an incredible youth coach. He reminds me a lot of my oldest son, Nick. So my oldest son, Nick, never saw a wrestling mat until he was in ninth grade. He got plucked from the halls. He was a 103 pounder. He walked around at 98 pounds soaking wet, which John Henry from Palm Beach Central said, "You're wrestling." Comes home, tells me he's wrestling. I'm like, okay, you're wrestling. And he, being that he never wrestled before, he wasn't great. He never placed at the state tournament. Only qualified twice, his sophomore year. Then he didn't make it his junior year, and then he made it his senior year. But he never placed. But he was a student of the game, like Austin. He would look at shit. He would watch the elite wrestlers, the Jordan Olivers, the Eric Grahalises, the Clark Glasses. He would watch those tapes and those videos, and he would learn. And anytime he would get around somebody like elite level like those guys, he'd say, "Hey, man, you know that high crotch hit? Can you teach me that?" Or, "Hey, that snap down, can you teach me how you do that?" And he would learn. And then he just became, and I'm not saying this because he's my son, he's probably one of the best youth coaches I've ever seen in my life. And then even at a higher level, I mean, he coached college at Kaiser when they first started. He was there for their first 3 years. But he's a really, really good coach. And I think he's going to be like that. So if he continues to coach, there's going to be some lucky kids that have him as a coach. Even Luca, if he sticks with it, man. How are you going to handle that, man, when your grandson starts wrestling?
Yeah, he seems excited. Well, I mean, they may have a whole lineup before it's done. I mean, I asked him after Luca was born, I mean, how many that they thought they would have. And the answer I got was all that God blesses us with.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, hey, when
you never know.
When you're grandpa and grandma, I mean, we'll take all the grandbabies we can get.
Of course, man. Of course. Let me ask you this. Did you raise him to be that close with God, or was that something he kind of picked up on his own?
No, that was really something he came to more or less on his own. Now, his grandparents, my wife's parents, they're Catholic. Austin and Caitlin both baptized Catholic. I've never been an overly religious person. My wife
me neither.
Never really has either. The grandparents used to pick them up on Sundays, take them to mass, take them to McDonald's after, and then they drop them back off at the house, or if it was football season, they'd stay and watch football with us or whatever. But never really pushed it that hard. But Austin was always a little more into it than Caitlin was, and definitely more than my wife and I were. And then when he went away to college, I guess he kind of ramped it up a little bit. He got more and more close and more outward about it. And he was actually, at the time, he was going to a Catholic church there, got confirmed in Arizona. Had a college friend stand up for him out there. And he would go to mass, and then he would leave there, and then he would go also to a non-denominational church in the afternoon. And he really liked that. That's where he got involved with campus ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And, they gave him a place to stay in exchange for that. And then our daughter-in-law, he actually met her on I don't know what you call it, internship. They actually met in Michigan outside of Milwaukee because he did a faith-based internship where they were going in and basically redoing Section 8 housing, stuff like that for people, rehabbing those, getting them ready to go. And she was going to Tribeca in Tennessee. Well, that's where they met, and they did the whole long distance relationship thing there for a little while. And, fast forward to they got married, and then
I was there.
Yep, you were. And she, and your wife was there too. I don't think she was your wife at the time.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know it. I think she was my wife. When did he get married?
Let me see. They just had their 3rd wedding anniversary. So
we got married October 3rd, 2021.
So it was just y'all may have been engaged, but y'all don't think
Yeah.
you're married.
Yeah. Wow.
Because that was the first time I had met her.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I didn't
yeah,
know her that long. We started
so
dating. We
Zoe
got married
moved
pretty
out
quick.
to Arizona with him. Who finished school out there, just like online because she only had a couple things left to do.
Yeah.
And they were both involved pretty heavily in the church. And then when he went in the army, Zoe is a citizen of the Bahamas. Actually, her family is Greek.
Yeah. I was going to ask you. I thought I remembered her parents were Greek.
Yeah. So they're Greek. When they moved to Missouri, they found actually a Greek Orthodox church and just fell in love with it.
Oh, good.
And if you don't know anything about Greek Orthodox, that's like Catholicism on steroids.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty. You got to be committed. I mean, they do fast 4 times a year, so I guess wrestling prepared him for that.
Yeah. That came easy for him.
um, but yeah, so and then that's like I said, they said all God will bless us with as far as the children. Like they do no contraception. But it's intense.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a lot. Like my wife and I are still learning things all the time about things
Yeah.
they do, things they don't do, and stuff like that. But they really both of them seem like they found a lot of peace in it.
Good.
But they spend a lot of time at church. Man,
That ain't a bad thing.
they're there. Well, there's worse things you could be doing with your time. That's what I say all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
I told them, I was like, it's not for me, but
Right.
um,
Hey, if
whatever
that's your
brings you
thing.
happiness.
Yeah, exactly. There's a in Boca Raton, in Broward County. There's a beautiful Greek Orthodox church. It is the most magnificent church I've ever seen in my life. Are they all like that, or what?
No, the one that they started going to when they first in Missouri, it was literally an old barn that they
Oh,
had. Yeah, I mean, like the congregation, and, everybody in the congregation, they've all got, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kids. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, but it was a smaller congregation that they had literally converted a barn over to a church. It was pretty
Wow.
neat, actually.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the one that they're going to in Savannah yet. Kim and I just went back in April. We went on a cruise to Italy and Greece and all that, and so we saw a lot of churches there, and some of those are they blow your mind.
Yeah.
They're just like you said, just beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some really nice ones out there, man. It's crazy. So where is he? Is he living in Arizona right now? Where are they at?
No. He's in the Army now. Been in for 2 years. He's stationed at Fort Stewart in Georgia, which is
Oh, he's close.
not too far from Savannah. Yeah.
Okay. And do the grandbabies, do they call you grandpa? Do they call you papa, or what do they call you? Or what
Yeah,
will they
well, the
call you?
2-year-old's the only one calling me anything, but yes, I have been dubbed Papa.
Papa, that's what I go by. They call me Papa. I don't know if it's just easier for them to say that or what, but I love it,
I
man.
think that's it. But
Yeah,
I'm whatever that first one calls you, that's what you're going to be forever.
exactly.
All the rest of them are going to follow suit.
Yeah, that's for sure. So let me jump back into the wrestling real quick. Are you actively officiating right now?
I mean, yeah, we just went up to Virginia Duels for the first time.
Okay.
Um, Worked that this year. That was a great experience. That was
How
really
was that? Yeah, tell me a little bit
yeah.
about that.
It was really nice. So it was my first year going up. So I was glad to be invited. So went up there, but it was a really good opportunity to see, not just deal with like top notch wrestling, top notch coaches, but just other top notch officials and
Hmm.
guys that will give you like no BS feedback.
Right.
We had some NCAA referees there
Okay.
that came around and would watch you officiate, give you some pointers, kind of like a debrief, stuff
Nice.
like that. So a lot of the kids that may not realize, like a lot of the referees, like definitely myself included in that, we're up there for the same reason the kids are up there to get better,
Yeah.
and it is hard, especially with, I mean, Polk County wrestling. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Let's just get real. I love the sport. I love it, but it's not high level wrestling.
Right.
And it's very hard to get better without being continuously exposed to
Yeah.
high level wrestling.
Absolutely.
It's in some ways it's harder to do lower skill level wrestling
Yeah.
because there's no figuring what's about to happen.
Right.
But I mean, especially when you get those situations where there's scrambles, there's questionable positioning, there's like you need to do that on a regular basis so that your brain can process what you're seeing fast enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But and not too fast. Because the easiest thing to do, call points but they're not there yet. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because you
Yeah.
assume that they're about to happen, or
Right.
because it's there for a split second.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest things. Is like take a breath, wait, hold the call a minute. You know what I
Right.
mean? Make
Yeah,
sure
I've
there's
seen that.
control
I've seen that
because you don't want
happen.
to. And when they're, and especially you get some of the lighter weights, and it's like two squirrels running around an oak
Right.
tree.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want to miss anything because everything's happening so fast. And, so getting those reps over 3 days, it's a long 3 days.
Yeah. I
But
would
just
imagine
getting
it would
those
be.
reps over 3 days, and it's like I did a little bit of everything. Did the elementary age kids, the females, did the high school. And man, those elementary age kids, man, it's just kids are studs. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like, and
It's crazy to see some of those kids, the level that they're wrestling at. It's
oh
like,
man,
what the hell?
it is just nuts. And so it was a great experience. Like everybody I met up there was really cool. And it's you. I think you have to approach officiating the same way the wrestlers approach wrestling. Like you have to be getting out there with better competition.
Yeah.
You have to be exposing yourself on a regular basis to higher level wrestling, even if you can't officiate it, if you can just go watch it and
Uh-huh.
observe the officials,
Yeah.
that are doing it. You can watch some NCAA matches, watch those officials. Like you have to do that if you're going to get better.
Right.
Because, me, the worst habit I had, kind of transitioning over from officiating MMA was the spacing. Like in
Yeah.
wrestling, I gotta back off and give a lot more space, not being
Yeah.
so close, and it
Yeah.
helps you see the action a little better. Whereas in MMA, you want a little bit of closer range in there, so you can make sure the shots are landing legal, especially along the belt line, and B, you need to be able to jump in there to save somebody if it's needed.
Yeah.
So you can't be all the way across the cage.
Right.
So it was a struggle for me at first. I still catch myself sometimes. I still catch myself getting sucked in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean so that was the biggest thing for me, and then obviously the rule changes every year.
Oh,
Some years are worse than others.
yeah.
I
But
think
now
this
this
year's
year they're going to the 3-point takedowns for high school,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You like that or you don't like that?
3-point takedowns and 4-point near falls.
Do you like that or no?
I'm on the fence with the 3-point takedown. It doesn't really matter to me one way or another. I don't like the 4-point near falls.
Why not?
Because now where you went from before we had 2 or 3.
Right.
You got 2 points at 2 swipes.
Yep.
You got 5 swipes. You got 3.
Right.
When you're going from 2 swipes to 3 swipes to 4 swipes on the score, whether you get 2, 3, or 4 points is too dependent, in my opinion, on referees' reaction time.
That's a
Because
good point.
we all know, we've been on the side of the mat looking at it, whatever, when our kids are wrestling or whatever, and you'd be like, count it, count it, count it.
Right. Right.
So now, if I'm a second or 2 slower than the other guy, that's the difference in a 2 and a 4-point near fall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I don't feel like it's realistic to expect human beings, which we all are, to have consistent reaction time that's going to be a difference. You're talking about 2 seconds between 2 and 4 points.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I
that's
get it.
just me personally, but they didn't ask me what I thought.
Yeah.
Well,
No, that
technically, they did ask me what I thought. They send a poll out at the end of the year about what you voted, and I voted no on
yeah.
that. But
Apparently they didn't
obviously,
count your vote.
yeah, apparently more people
Well,
voted yes. But I mean, they sent it to officials, to coaches, to all over
yeah.
the place. So everybody gets a vote. But
We'll see how it works out. Now, I heard you say, you were thankful that you got invited to that. So apparently you have to get invited. Is that common? Do you have to get it? Like, how did the officials get chosen for the FHSA state tournament? Is that has to be an invite
that's
thing,
a
right?
whole nother ball of wax.
Let's get into
So
that, man.
yeah, unfortunately, and I don't mean this in a bad way. Maybe I do a little bit. I don't know. There's a lot of politics
No
involved.
shit.
So every association gets a certain number of slots. Okay. And they go to whoever the presidents of the associations are, and they take opinion on, okay, like our association, we get 2 slots. That's what we get. We get 2 slots. We're a small association. We get 2 slots.
When you say
We're
association, what does that mean?
so every referee in the state belongs to an officials association.
Like South, Southeast, North, Central?
Yeah,
Is that
so
how it is?
like we're Lake Region Wrestling Officials Association.
Okay.
And then there's Central, there's Southwest,
Okay.
they all pick their own names,
Yeah.
basically. But and then each association has a president. I'm not sure off the top of my head how many associations there are in the state. So when you become a referee, you join whatever association. Like Central Florida, they got Orlando, Kissimmee, like that. That's a gigantic association with, I don't know, 40 something officials.
Okay.
We've got like 12, and probably 4 of those I'd say are part time.
Okay.
You can't do it. You can't count on them continuously,
Right.
Because of work or whatever the case may be.
Right.
They help out when they can. So yeah, basically, so they'll go to the president. They'll make a case for who their best guys are, why they think they should go there. Does FHSA have a little leeway, like Jeremy Walton? Hey, I'm going to take a couple more. Yeah, they have that leeway, especially if there's an official in an association that they really want to see there. But yeah, so it does come down a lot to who you know, what your standing is within your own association, what their opinion of you is. And so a lot of it is speculative. I see that a lot. And now we'll see how that changes in the future. Jeremy is moved on to bigger and better things. So he won't be over the officials anymore. I think he's going to be over all athletics, which, buoy for him. I mean, that's great. It's upward move for him for sure. Whoever steps in and takes over for him, we'll see how he does things. But currently, that's kind of how it is now. And then I think there's a certain level of good old boys club. Guys that have been there for years are going to come back every year.
Right.
And I don't mean that in a way that they don't deserve it, but sometimes I think it's a possibility that you can hold on too long, because we all get older, right?
Sure.
Our reaction time gets slower, our eyesight gets worse, and man, here you and we're both sitting here wearing eyeglasses to look at each other.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you know what I mean? So I don't know. My thing always is I don't care. Like, right. I officiate wrestling because I love wrestling, and I don't care if it's middle school wrestling, JV wrestling, varsity. Like, I'm not all wrapped up in. I've done enough things in my life where this is not how I identify myself as a man.
Right.
I do this because I enjoy it.
Right.
And if I'm going to stress out about, am I getting a region or am I getting a state tournament, and some guys do. That's their personality.
I'm sure they do.
No, that's just not me. I don't, I'm like, and they don't know how to take me when I tell them that, like some of the guys in my association, the president and so it's like, I don't care. I don't care.
Right.
Just, if you can use me, great. Right. If not, cool. Like, more power to whoever else, like, I'm not in competition with anybody. That's not why I do it.
They're probably scratching their head and going, what does he mean he doesn't care? No, he's got to care, man. Well, I care. Why does he? Guys, you're
Well, I
right. They
mean,
get too
and
wrapped
some
up.
people are that way, and I think
Yeah,
that, to be fair, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I think just to
right.
be fair, like some people feel like if they're going to do something, they want to do it at the highest level they can possibly do it.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. It's just kind of like that's just kind of not what my motivation is.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So if I end up at the state tournament, whatever, great, cool. I'd love to do it, but I ain't gonna beg, and I'm not gonna ask, and I'm not
right,
gonna,
right.
I
If it
I
happens, it
officiated
happens.
fights for 12 years. I never once asked for an assignment.
Yeah,
I went where they sent me to go because I
yeah,
feel like if you want me there, I'll go. I'm not gonna beg you. I'm not gonna beg
yeah.
anybody for anything. I'm not gonna ask. If you can use
If,
me, great. If
if
you can't,
somebody asked you, if somebody asked you right now, who you think, in your opinion, is the best official right now?
no, I'm not gonna answer that one.
Well, I'm not
Uh,
asking who the worst piece of shit is.
no,
Who's the
I
best?
know, man. See, I hate those because I think that I think that I will say this. I think the most consistent, uh, and I'm a little biased on one of them. I think the two most consistent officials that I've seen are Jeremy Walton and Donnie Peak.
Mm-hmm.
Like every single match that they officiate,
Yeah,
how it's going to be called.
two good officials.
There's very little room for error. There's very little, now you may disagree on some of their judgments on things, but those judgments will always be consistent every
Yeah,
single time. So I think that to me is like the most valuable attribute. If
yeah,
they know, if you can see the official step up on the mat and know what he's going to officiate like, and you can count on it, that to me is a great official.
yeah,
It's when you don't know. It's when I just put a big, huge value on consistency.
yeah,
And we all see it, right? We get online, we look at the
yeah.
chats every year after the state tournament. He called it here, he didn't call it there. He
Right.
thought, and
Happens
I
all the
mean,
time.
and it's a problem. It's a problem.
Big,
You just have
big
to,
problem.
no matter what it is. And that's the way I feel about. That's what I feel like. I mean, yes, you got to know the rules. Yes, you got to make the right calls. But I think consistency is like the top criteria. And I think those two guys are the most consistent that I've seen on a regular basis.
Do you think that there are certain coaches that maybe have been around a while or maybe that have some success that others may not have had a taste of yet that get some preferential treatment? Do you think that goes on at all? Because I
I
do.
don't I don't think it's preferential treatment. I wouldn't use that term. What I
Respect?
do think is that some of them know because of who they are, what their resume is, what their accolades are, that there are some referees that they can manipulate.
Mm.
So I wouldn't call it preferential treatment, but I think that if you're a high level coach like say you're a Danny Walker and you've
Hmm.
got multiple state championships, blah, 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 that can be a little intimidating for some people when
Yeah,
they come and question your judgment.
right.
Um, and it can make people pause, you know what I mean, and go, huh, maybe I'm wrong. Make the official start questioning himself. And if you don't have an assisting there to ask, like if it's not a placement match, yeah, I mean, my thing is there's a flip side to that too. So I think that most of these coaches, if they're not familiar with you as an official, they're going to try it. They're going to see if they push. Are you going to, they're going to push where there's mush, right? Are you going to
Yeah.
fold
Right.
if they question you? And they know that, and they know what they're doing because they're feeling you out.
Yeah.
So I think that happens, and I think that some officials are more susceptible to that than others. Um, on the flip side of that, I think that there are some officials who can't ever be convinced that they're incorrect.
Mm.
And I think that you have to, if you're going to grow as an official, you can't be that person who will never admit they made a mistake,
Yeah,
because all of us are going to make a bad call sooner or later.
of course.
It's going to happen. The newer you are, the more likely it is that you happen. If the
Yeah.
coach can come to you and present his case and make it make sense, you have to be willing to turn around and say, all right, I'm going to fix that call. If you're just automatically going to be in defense mode, that's not good either. And that's part of what they're trying to figure out too. If you're always in defense mode and it'll never enter your brain that you've made a bad call, then you're not going to get better as an official. You're going to get a reputation in the community overall, and you're actually going to get the opposite effect from the coaches. They're going to be more apt to come argue with you.
Yeah.
Because they just get so fed up with it, whether they're right or wrong. So I have turned around and I've reversed calls. That you come to me, you make a case, it's based in the rule. I see what you're saying. I analyze it or run through in my head and go, you know what, he's right. You have to be man enough to be able to do that.
That's a good official.
And I can say there's only been one time ever where when I reversed a call, not that I've reversed 100 of them, I did a lot more in the first, I'd say, about 3 years, because I was legitimately wrong.
Right.
You know what
Right.
I mean? Explain it to me like a man, like a human being, where I can understand it. And I've only ever had one case where the opposing coach ever approached me and had a problem with me reversing, because they knew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They knew I was wrong too.
Right.
So, it just comes down to be a man. If you're wrong, you're wrong. It's just what it is. But you know what? Every time you realize you're wrong in a certain situation, that's one that you'll never do that again.
Yeah.
You will never do it again.
It's a learning process, like you said.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't necessarily think that, and I'm just going to throw his name out there, and I have no problem with him. Obviously, legendary coach, but people used to say that about Russ Cozart all the time. He gets this special treatment. He gets that special treatment. Referees, they won't ever go. I didn't ever see that to be the case, even before I was officiating. What I did see to be the case was he had a certain amount of clout, and that was a little intimidating for some officials.
Yeah.
So they weren't as willing to kind of stand up even when they were right. They felt like, oh, if he was complaining, he must be right.
Right.
And that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
And you do have to keep in mind there's some coaches out there that are of that caliber who are going to complain, just hoping that they can kind of bully you into making a different call.
Yeah, I see that. I see that a lot. Let me ask you this: did you see any of the 133-pound final in the NCAA's this year with Arujo?
I saw none of it this year.
Oh, you didn't see anything?
Knee deep in 1,000,000 hours at work, and
dude, listen, the 33-pound match in the NCAA finals had to have had at least 7, 8, maybe 10 stoppages for video review. It was bricks were getting thrown left and right. I mean, it was a big match. It was Fix's 4th time in the finals. He wound up losing. It was his 4th time as a runner-up, 4-time friggin' runner-up. But it was crazy. The reason I bring that up, do you think video review should ever come to high school?
Absolutely
or at least
not.
At the state tournament? No?
Absolutely not. Maybe at the state tournament. We had the Virginia duels. We had video review the last day.
Okay.
And the way they did it there, I would support it for the state tournament under these circumstances. Every coach got one ticket. They had a call to make. They had to argue. They could come bring that ticket to the table. If they talked to the official and the official wouldn't change his, they had a ticket. They could take it to the table.
Okay.
The head official would radio it up to the booth. They would video review it, either back the coach or back the referee. So if the coach lost it, he lost his ticket. You don't get no more reviews. You're done.
Okay.
If he won, he got his ticket back.
Okay.
And they reversed
and then he would
the
have
call.
Another review if he needed it.
Right. And
Okay.
I think even in those scenarios, it was like a maximum of 3 for the day. Don't quote me on that. You'd have to ask those guys. But I think that like even if you won every time, you were only going to do it 3 times. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So if they did a scenario like that, like I mean, if you're so sure, coach, you got a ticket there in your pocket.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
I think I would support it for the state tournament only. Because I do think that the state tournament is important enough to where the calls need to be right, and a kid shouldn't lose a state title or at least a shot at the state title over a blown call that everybody in the place knew it was a fucked up call.
Yeah.
But it happened.
And I maybe even go a step further and say maybe just for placement matches.
Or even placement matches. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so if they did something along those lines, but to just keep like the situation you're describing where they stopped it like 10 times, that shouldn't be a thing. You know what I
It
mean?
happened. It
Like you
happened.
have to. There's got to be some kind of limit. Otherwise, you're just going to call everything. You're just going to challenge everything that doesn't go your way. Now we're not wrestling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now we're not. We've always talked about as wrestlers. Drag the kid into the deep waters. Well, when you're stopping the match every 20 seconds, nobody's in deep water in the third period anymore. You know what I mean? You take
That's
conditioning factor completely out of it.
And that's exactly what happened. And the announcers even said that. They said the whole flow of the match just completely stopped, where it was going to favor one guy who had better conditioning. Now, guess what? He just lost that advantage, but
Yeah.
whatever. But
I just think that like I said, if you did something where you gave every coach a ticket and said, hey, if you got a problem with a call, you can challenge. If you lose your call, you're done with your challenges.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I could support something like that, not all season long. Absolutely not, because we would never get
never.
every little hole in the wall tournament would go until
Right.
8 or 9 o'clock at night. No,
Right. Exactly.
I also feel like I don't want to speak derogatorily about any coach that has given up his time with his family for no
Right.
more money than they make, try to help kids and wrestle. But there are different levels of coaches.
100%.
And some of these coaches are doing the best they can, but they don't have a lot of knowledge. They don't have a lot of background. They don't have a lot of I don't want to give those guys challenges. I'm sorry.
Right.
We all do. I'm sure that every referee out there will probably tell you we spend probably the first month of every season answering questions at the table about rules that have changed that coaches that were unaware of. They question a call. How is that? Blah, blah, blah. I had one coach question me about, I called the pin out of bounds because the kid was on top, was still in. Coach walking to the table. He's like, he's clearly out of bounds. Like, you don't have to drag him back in, coach. You changed that like 3 seasons ago.
Oh, fuck.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can't wrap my brain around it. And if there's any time I start getting kind of short, it's that. It's like you're coaching these kids.
Right.
You don't know the rule changes from 2-3 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, you haven't to me that's kind of a dereliction of duty.
I agree with you.
But especially with the first year rule changes, we'll have a coaches meeting. We'll try to bring it up, before the tournament, just to say it so everybody knows, whatever. And then some of them still don't get it, Yeah. So first month of every season, you're going to get a lot of calls. Every time you call something different, you're going to get questions throughout the day. So
exactly.
Sometimes you got to spend your time just educating.
Yeah, you do. You do. Last thing I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to let you get back to Cam, and I'm going to get back to Lori. Are you a fan, or do you agree with the top 8 at state at this point, or do you think it should have been left at the top 6?
I'm going to catch a lot of hate for this one.
I'm going to give you my opinion too, so don't worry.
I think it should always just been top 4.
Yeah.
That's just, I've always felt that way.
That's how it was when I was in high school.
I actually feel like we ought to, the state of Florida ought to do it like California. There should be one state tournament.
Yeah.
One state champion.
Yeah.
I've always
I don't know why we can't do that. Why can't we do that?
Now, if you were going to do that, if you were going to get rid of 1A, 2A, 3A.
Oh yeah, you got to go top 8
and all that. Now, hell, we can do top 10.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not a fan of 8. But like I said, I wasn't a fan of 6. I'd be a fan of top 4. But
I hear you.
they don't ask me. So however many
Right.
medals they want to make, that's fine.
Yeah.
Let the kids, do whatever. But
What I think with 1A, 2A, and 3A, I think it needs to be top 6. If you're going to do anything, do it top 6. I would go top 4, but if we can't go top 4, go top 6. Not that there's anything wrong with the 7th and 8th guys. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it. I'm just saying, well, I guess I am saying they don't deserve it. I'll put it out there. No, if you don't place top 6, you shouldn't be on the podium. I think with a 16-man bracket, putting half the kids on the podium, I think it diminishes a little bit from the accomplishment, and people are going to call me an asshole. Call me what you want. I am an asshole, but that's just the way I feel about it. And just doesn't matter what I think, because they're going to do what they want to do. But
well, right, because I get what the argument is. It's like, okay, but they had to get through top 16, whatever districts, top regionals, But that's exactly what my philosophy is. It's like, okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 at districts. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 at regionals.
yeah,
Now all of a sudden we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at states. Why don't we
exactly.
stay consistent? Top 4, top 4, top 4. That's just my thought process.
Yep.
But does it matter to me? No. They want to medal top 16 in order. That's fine to matter. Do whatever you want to do. Does it affect how I sleep at the end of the day? Not really. But I mean, to me, I've always just been an advocate. I always thought top 6 was too much.
Yeah.
But
it is what it is. I don't think they're going to change it, but whatever.
No,
it is
I don't think they are either. I
Well,
don't
we've been
think
going
they'll
over an
take something
hour,
away
John.
after they gave it out.
Listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I know you got a lot going on and you work a gazillion hours. So thank you for taking your time off with me.
Hey, not a problem. Good fun.
Yeah, man. Enjoy those grandbabies when you get to see them. Tell Austin I said hello, and I will definitely keep in touch, man.
All right, brother.
Thank you. Hey guys, Ricky Cheese here. Thanks for listening to the show. Remember, you can watch Grinding for Greatness on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the GFG YouTube channel. Please subscribe, like, and leave a comment on your favorite episode and who you'd like to see next on the show. I'll see y'all soon on the next episode of Grinding for Greatness.